don't have a place to post the recordings. I'm waiting for John Teisberg to connect me so that I can put the new website up. So I don't want.
I found them on Reluctant Brotherhood.
Right, but I haven't put the last two on there because I want to put them onto the new site as soon as we get going. But I can't put. I can't do that until he gives me the secret codes so that I can direct to the right place. So, okay, I'm just I'm almost there. Let's see. Right. So I think I see. Oh, Bill Franklin. I didn't see Bill Franklin. So I guess I apologize to those of you who didn't get the announcement. It did go out on Saturday afternoon for sure, and some people definitely got it because they responded, but I think some people did not get it. So I really have no idea. I mean, the only thing I can think of if it had anything to do with where I was sending it from, but I don't see why that should be. It seemed like I had a good internet connection. So I just don't know. Anyway, this is who I see on the call right now. I see Frank Kelly, Jake Hannum, Jim Cameron, Jim Marshall, Kurt Johnson, Mike Tamales, Peter Kafka, Ron Shaheen, Bill Franklin. Anybody else?
Rich Catapano.
Rich Catapano, okay. I was expecting you, but I didn't see you. Now I know. You're hiding as caller 07. Anyone else?
007.
Okay, well, it's good because what that means right now is that we got plenty of time. We don't have any new people on the call, although people may join. I know that Rich has something he wants to raise, and will. But before I go down, oh no, I'll go down the list right now. So Frank, anything for you today?
No, I'm just here to listen.
Just to listen. Jake, how about you?
No.
No. Venice Jim, anything for you?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like I'm on hormone therapy now, the first phase. If that stops, the next drugs I understand are real expensive. Do most of the drug plans have them included?
Okay, so we'll come to you. We'll come to you on that question. It's actually timely. Jim Marshall, anything for you? Yes, there is, because I want to come back to you on the two things that you mentioned. So I made a note of that. So there are at least two things from last week. I don't know what you got for this week, but yes, definitely. Kurt Johnson, anything for you?
Yeah, I'd like to talk to some that have been through radiation therapy in combination with Lupron. So
Okay. Mike Tamales, how about, yes, we need a report from you. So, so yes, you're not slipping in under the wire here. Peter, anything for you?
No, not today.
Okay. Did you get your mango tree sorted?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Good. Ron Shaheen, anything for you?
No, we're fine. Just listening.
Good. Bill Franklin, how about you?
No. Can you hear me fine?
We can hear you terrific.
Yeah. Last week my microphone didn't work at all. The whole meeting. I was trying to talk to you guys and do things, and you never answered me.
Oh.
I can hear you, but
I wonder why. That's pretty weird. And Rich, yes, definitely. I've got your question, so I will come to you right after Jim Marshall.
Thank you.
Anybody? Did someone just join? I heard a beep. Anybody new? No. Okay. All right. So, Jim, why don't you talk about the both issues are worth discussing. So why don't you talk about the two issues that got left over from last Tuesday?
Okay, thanks, Rick. Firstly, I run a site for Australian men from gymgym.com, and the Australian group that I've run has just had its 7th birthday. One of our members, thank you very much for that. One of our members, just an odd and interesting bit, has just a fortnight ago had his chemotherapy number 60. He got prostate cancer diagnosed in 2002, and he had along the way 10 lots of Taxotere, that's docetaxel. That worked for a while, and it came back. So then he had another 10 lots of Taxotere, docetaxel, brought him up to 20. And he had one of the super hormones, enzalutamide or abiraterone, I've forgotten which one, and then it came back again from that. So he started on the chemotherapy, cabazitaxel, also known as Jevtana, and he's had 40 doses of that so far. He has one dose of that every 3 weeks, and two issues that might be interesting to some people is, one, his PSA is 270. Some people don't understand, or it hovers around 270. Some people don't understand that your absolute PSA doesn't tell you very much. It's how fast it's going up or down. So this guy lives happily with a PSA of around 270. The other thing is all these drugs, like the disease itself, affect men very differently. And some men take, the hardest treatments, chemotherapy, like a haircut or getting their nails trimmed. For other men, it's so bad that they decide that they'll have to stop it. That they'd rather die early. So that's it on that one.
Let's just hold on.
He must have the record.
He has our record anyway. We have had men who've had 20 Taxotere and then gone on cabazitaxel, but not as many as this guy.
So let's just hold on that for a second. I know a guy that's also had a lot, but not as many as that. He's probably had a total of 30 to 40 at this point between docetaxel, cabazitaxel, carboplatin, and what have you. But he handles it very well, as Jim said. Everybody handles it differently. But I just wanted to, what I wanted to say is, if you do handle the chemotherapy well, it's a good way to manage your disease. And the guy that I know, his PSA stays between about 480 and about 600, and within those limits. And I haven't spoken to him in a while. Peter may have done, but he seems to manage quite well on. I think he's doing something different right now, but it never really bothered him. So it is an option for those who can handle it. But I wanted to make sure that, did anybody have any questions on that, or want to ask Jim any questions?
Hey there, it's Ron Shaheen. Yeah, I saw that on the website about the 60 times. I just finished my 9th on Jiptana. I have minor side effects on the thing, and my oncologist has said it's a it doesn't end. It's as long as either it works or I can't handle it anymore. And I guess the terminology they're using right now is kind of maintenance. You're kind of maintaining your cancer. I mean, you're controlling it. Since I went to Jiptana, my PSA has gone down 400 points, but now it's at 400 because it was up close to 800, and this is over 4 months. So that's a good thing. I'd like to see it down in the 200s or less. But I was very encouraged by what you just said, Jim, and speaking about this fellow, and recognizing that it doesn't have to be debilitating to just be on chemo, because again, we look at chemo as the last stage. I mean, after that, where do you go? Unless they come up with some new drug that has yet to be FDA approved. So I appreciate that information.
So I do want to say one thing, Ron. I mean, I don't think today that chemotherapy is necessarily the last stage, because with the opportunity to sequence your tumor, it's not uncommon to find an actionable gene. And if we find an actionable gene, then there are drugs out there to work on that gene. And many times people are not going to even get sequenced until after they're done with their chemo.
Yeah, and I'm also looking to, now I have no pain, bone pain. I do have 20, 25 metastasis, but no bone pain. Mm-hmm. But I have talked to my oncologist about the first of the year stopping and doing a cycle of radium-223. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's a good option as long as as we've said here before, as long as your blood counts are good and strong. I just heard I got a note from Jeff in Maine, Jeff Ledoux in Maine, because he had knee replacement about a week and a half ago. And he's looking to start Xofigo pretty soon. At the same time, his hemoglobin is a little low because of the surgery that he just had. I don't think it's because of his cancer, so he's basically got to wait until he builds up his blood counts, and then he'll be ready to go. But I mean, I can't say it enough times. I think you've got to really lean on Kaiser to work with you to get your tumor sequenced.
Well, again, they don't do it.
Right.
And I did write to my oncologist after our last conversation, and he directed me to Foundation One. That's kind of where we're at.
So Foundation One say that they will do their best to back charge the pharmaceuticals and charge you as little as possible. That's on their website. At the same time, you're going to need Kaiser to provide a current tumor sample.
Oh, yeah.
So you can write to Foundation One, but you've got to be working with your oncologist to figure out what you're going to send him. I mean, push comes to shove, you can send him a liquid sample of blood, but that's not as good if you can get a current bone sample. Now, interestingly, Steve's not on the call, but Steve is going to get this done, and Kaiser said, you know what, we don't really do bone biopsies here, and so they're actually have agreed to send him to UCSF to get a bone biopsy. But this is all going to change, because this, I would say a year from now, this is going to be a lot more common, and Kaiser's going to have to come up with some sort of a policy.
Right.
but in the interim, I think that, you know, if it were me, I'd be writing back to my oncologist right now and saying, Doc, we need a current, we must have a current tumor sample. How do you propose we get the tumor sample to send to Foundation One?
How would I get a tumor sample?
How do you get a tumor sample? Was that your question?
Yes.
Well, you get a tumor sample from taking a biopsy from a tumor. So that means that I'm just trying to remember. Hold on a second. Let me just pull up your profile.
So they would need to identify a sizable tumor somewhere on me.
Yeah.
And then take kind of a biopsy of it.
That's exactly right. Now,
a needle biopsy or something?
Well, it depends where it is. Now, in your case, I can't remember, but I don't think. Oh yeah, you had a radical prostatectomy years back. I see it here.
Right.
Yeah, when you were 58. So it means that they're going to have to find and hopefully you have no visceral soft tissue metastases, correct?
Well, I had a CT scan today, which is, I haven't had one for about 8 months, so we'll see.
Right. But, you know, assuming you have no visceral metastases, they have to take it from a tumor that's in the bone,
Right.
which is not uncommon. I mean, it's a small procedure. I know a lot of guys that have done it. It's more unnerving and uncomfortable than it is painful, because you hear them tapping away and what have you. But you don't really feel very much. At least that's what I've been told by the guys that I know that have done it. I'm not sure. Frank, you had a bone biopsy, didn't you?
Yeah, I've had 2 of them.
And how tell Ron or tell us all about the bone biopsy, what that procedure was like for you.
Yeah, they put you on a twilight drug or whatever they call it. So you're semi-conscious, but you're not feeling anything, and you're right, you just feel them chiseling away at the bone. It's a big needle. Anyway, on my second one, they missed the cancer, so that was no good. Other than that, the anesthesia, you're up and home by, 3-4 hours after you show up for it. And it's not very painful. It doesn't leave you with any pain or anything. It's just a question of, I don't know how they missed the cancer, because there was a whole cluster of them right there. You could see the needle going into it. They put a CAT scan with it. It's a CAT scan guided biopsy. So they've thrown me in the blood test category.
Okay. So this is.
I think out of all the things that they've done to me, that was about the easiest.
So I mean, we'll talk momentarily about the blood test, but Ron, the bone biopsy is, it's a procedure you have to go through, and hopefully they, in some instances, and Frank's not the only person I know who hasn't gotten good results out of a bone biopsy. I don't know what the percentages are on that, but some people don't get good samples. But that's what you need to be talking to Kaiser about, and your med onc, and saying to him, okay, let's. I want to get my tumor sample. I want to get my tumor sequenced. I'll figure out the monetary side, but I need you to provide me with a sample to send down to Foundation One. Now, the other alternative, as Frank just mentioned, is what's called a liquid biopsy, which can be obtained. I'll in a second. I'll try and find the. There's a very good little video that I sent out to a couple of people last week, explaining the bone biopsy. It's on the liquid biopsy. It's on the Foundation site, and the panel that they use to analyze the blood is not as extensive and comprehensive as the one for the bone biopsy, but it's not bad. So I think the panel is about 500 genes for the bone biopsy or the visceral biopsy. For the blood biopsy, it's only around 60 to 70, but it hits on all the major ones. And if you can't get a decent bone biopsy sample, or for some people like Eric Bookbinder, for example, and maybe to some extent Steve Bornstein, the Mets are in a place in the spine where they don't want to do a bone biopsy, so it's a good backup. So that would be your backup position, Ron. Does anybody know?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Rick, can I go back to the long-term chemo question for a minute?
Sure, of course.
What if PSA is not a good marker? What do they use as a marker to indicate that the chemo is working? Is it the fact that you're alive, or is it the scans? You know, decreasing METs in the scans.
Well, I mean, I'll give you my 2 cents and throw it open. But I mean, Dominic, God rest his soul, always used to say, and many people have said, well, it is the scans. But then you get other people that will say, like Steve Bornstein, scans are not that reliable because scans oftentimes will show bone activity, whether that's building new bone or breaking down new bone. So you can't necessarily tell whether what the scans are seeing. But the answer, yes, is some type of scanning. Anybody else want to comment on that? Jim Marshall, maybe?
Yes, thanks, Richard. What I was trying to say is it's not the absolute level of PSA which makes a difference, but how fast it is changing. So if this guy is around 270 and it's 250 one month and 283 the next month and so on, he's not panicking. But if it goes from 270 to 520, then he's going to look for a new treatment. He's also monitoring it by scans, and he's reported in his last report to me just a fortnight ago, more or less, there's one new small MET, and one of his METs has disappeared, and a few more of his METs are about 25% smaller than his last scan. Now, I'm not positive about what his scan was, but a very common scan in Australia is PSMA gallium-68, which doesn't have the bone confusion problems that Rick just spoke of.
Yeah, and unfortunately, unless you're in a trial here, it's kind of hard to get a PSMA scan yet. There are a couple of places where there are trials, but it's not readily available. So PSMA, Jim, why don't you explain PSMA for the guys?
Fair enough, Rick. Basically, sitting on the edge of every prostate cancer cell is a little arm that's looking for something to grab hold of, and it's looking for, it will connect to something exactly the right shape, and that connection is called prostate specific membrane antigen, this one here on the cell wall. Prostate cancer cells often have one or two of these, but I'll say that again to make sure I've said the right thing. Prostate cells often have one or two PSMA antigens waving about, but prostate cancer cells often have 10 to 1,000 times as many of these little antigens waving around. So researchers have invented a thing that will lock into that PSMA on the surface of the cell, and they can attach other things to this little bit that will lock in. So we'll call the right. So on the surface of the cell, we'll say that's the keyhole, and what locks into it, we'll say is the key. So they've invented a key that will fit in that lock, and they can attach things to that key so it will be grabbed on the surface of the cell. The first thing they tried was big lumps of iron. They're actually tiny nanoparticles, but for the body they were rather big lumps. And they were too big to go into the cell, these big lumps of iron, but if you took an ordinary bone scan, you could see these lumps of iron, so it was a new way to see prostate cancer cells. Trouble with the lumps of iron is that they're not good for the body. Too much iron in the blood. So they looked for something that would be harmful to the prostate cancer cells, but not so harmful to the body. And so they looked at tying onto this key different kinds of radioactive agents. And one of the radioactive agents they found attached to it was a radioactive substance called gallium-68. And gallium-68 releases radiation, but only a tiny distance. And when this radiation connects with other stuff, it comes up on a PET scan. You've probably heard of a PET scan. So a PET scan can see the radiation that comes from gallium-68 that's sitting on the surface of these cells. So with a PSMA PET scan, you can see where the prostate cancer is. Next step is to treat the cancer. So you take the key, and instead of attaching harmless radiation or fairly harmless radiation to it, you attach something harmful to it. So in Australia, they've attached a more highly radioactive drug, lutetium-177, and again, the prostate cancer cells grab the lutetium-177. Its harmful radioactivity kills the cells. Another group in my local city here is attaching docetaxel to the PSMA key, and they're working. That's got so far as the mice at the moment. The thing is that you do it in a test tube, and then you do it in mice, and then you do it in dogs, and then you do it in humans. So for those who are worried about animals, the dogs aren't bred for this. Dogs are the only animal that has prostate cancer besides humans. And so these are dogs that turn up at vets with prostate cancer, and they're given the treatments to see if it works on the dogs.
Thanks, Jim.
So that's PSMA PET scan. It's basically shows up much smaller amounts of prostate cancer than other scans. 1 or 2 millimeters.
Yeah. I've actually read a little bit about this attaching the docetaxel, and the reason why it's so if it works, it's going to be revolutionary, is because then they'll use a chemotherapy agent, but it will be focused only on the prostate cancer cells and not on the whole body. Because right now when you have chemotherapy, it's systemic and it affects everything, and that's why your hair falls out, for example, and your nails turn black. But if they could administer docetaxel in the way through PSMA, as Jim explained, then the side effects, the comorbidities, would be much more easy to cope with.
This is Kurt here. I brought
Yes.
this topic up with my oncologist, medical oncologist, and he said for me, this type of thing is not applicable just because my PSA is quite low still and I'm a new entrant to this race. But he did say that one of the problems with PSMA is the fact that it does attack cells in the kidney and also in the small intestine, areas that absorb folate. So he said there are drawbacks to some of this gene therapy. So that's
Well,
just what
hold on a second. I think I'm a little confused there. PSMA is something that occurs naturally wherever there's a prostate cancer cell.
Right, no, but the PSMA antigen actually is shown, what he was telling me, it's within kidneys, and I don't remember where in the kidney, there's a specific region, and also within the small intestine where folate is absorbed.
Right.
So he mentioned it, so I don't know, that was just some feedback that I got from him.
Right, but I'm not sure how he explained it, but I just want to clarify for the people on the call. PSMA in itself is something that occurs on every prostate cell, wherever those prostate cells are. Now, the treatment that is used, whether it's gallium to identify where the cells are or lutetium to treat those cells, that might be harmful if there was soft tissue metastases. I'm not sure about that. Jim may know the answer to that one. But
no, I think the point is the actual antigen that's sticking out. There's other things in the body that have similar antigens, and the problem is they may attach to whatever you're sending to the prostate cancer. And I think that's what he's saying is, and I read somewhere where the incidence of lupus and things like that connected to this type of therapy.
Okay.
So that's just something I read and something that this medical oncologist that I talked to mentioned. He didn't know that much about it, but he mentioned that. So just a heads up.
Jim,
there are some complications, and I'm sorry, I'm not on top of those. One is in the parotid gland or some of the glands that supply fluids to the mouth. It can collect in there, so I'm not sure about that. These are have been problems with the highly radioactive lutetium. I haven't heard it being a problem with the much lower, safer dose
gallium.
Gallium.
Okay, well, thank Kurt.
Hello?
Yeah.
Paul here.
Yes.
Kurt's oncologist, I think, is right. You can get PSMA elsewhere apart in the body apart from prostate cancer cells.
So explain to me then. I mean, if it's called prostate-specific membrane antigen, I'm wondering why it would.
I think
if you could get why you're getting it elsewhere in the body.
Well, it's mainly generally prostate cancer cells, but not always.
Okay. All right. I'm learning.
I think Paul and I. G'day, Paul.
G'day, Jim.
Paul and I will obviously do some more research on this and report back another time.
Okay. I mean, but the other thing, Kurt, is that it's very hard to access this treatment in this country right now. There are very few places that are doing trials. I know there's a trial at UCSF with the gallium. I don't think anybody's doing anything with lutetium anywhere. So, you know, it's too far down it's a little ways down the road here. It hasn't been approved even for trial in this country.
it sounds like Jim was saying in Australia it is something that they're researching.
Yeah, I mean, there are trials in Australia. In fact, Alex Thiem, who's not on the call today, has been through one cycle of lutetium, and he was into his second cycle, and I think that then decided to stop it because it didn't seem like it was helping him. I haven't heard from Alex in a couple of weeks, but maybe the Aussies have. I don't know. But yes, it's being used. I mean, Jim, how many guys in your group are on that lutetium trial?
2 or 3. I think Alex is one of our members.
Yeah, he is.
There's another guy in Melbourne at least. Paul, can you help?
Another one in Perth, so two or three.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in terms of just America, there's a conference on sort of later on in the year in Australia on gallium and lutetium and so on. And one of the speakers at the conference is Professor John Babbage from Weill Cornell Medical College in New York. So there sort of are some people in the States looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know there's people looking at gallium, but I don't know about I don't know about the lutetium. But yeah. Let's come back. So Peter, that was sort of that sort of spun off of your question about what do you do if you don't use PSA. Did you want to follow up at all on that?
No, that was it. I just wondered what the markers were for people. You know, if they're on long-term chemotherapy, how do you really know it's doing anything other than the fact that you're still alive?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if scans don't. I guess if the scans still keep showing that you have metastasis, you just assume that it's working, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the second topic, Jim, the testosterone topic.
Right, Rick. Firstly, as a segue, any of you who are coming to the PCRI conference in Los Angeles in September, love to say hi. You'll identify me by having a mobility scooter, a tiny little silver mobility scooter. And the reason I have the mobility scooter isn't to do with my prostate cancer, it's to do with a comorbidity, another disease I've had for about 20 years, and that disease affects, amongst other things, my muscles and how strong they are. So being on hormone therapy as I am, which also affects the muscles, I have an interest in this next study that is happening, at least here in Australia. Basically, your muscles, including your heart muscles, need testosterone to be really healthy. That's why if you're on ADT, the risk of problems with your heart is raised by a small amount. The risk of muscle loss is much more common, and the ratio of fat in your body to lean muscle mass goes the wrong way, and you put on weight. So it would be good if your body could get testosterone, but the testosterone could be denied to the cancer, and that's what this trial is about. Where does your heart and where do your muscles get what the testosterone they need? They get it from your liver. And what does your liver do? It removes the testosterone that it doesn't use. So the idea is quite simply, you give men oral testosterone, that goes to their stomach and then to their liver, and from there to the muscles, including the heart, and then the amount is chosen so that all the rest of it is used up before it goes out to around your body where the cancers are. So oral testosterone going from your stomach to the liver, to your muscles, and then being removed. They've done the preliminary research, so they found if you have 40 milligrams of testosterone orally, that's the same as the injection of testosterone that's usually given as a booster to men who don't have prostate cancer. And they've discovered that if you test the blood after the liver at 40 milligrams, there's none there basically. So for 6 months, these people will first have a whole body scan that looks at their muscles, how dense their muscles are and where their fat is and so on. Then for 6 months, it's a randomized trial. So for 6 months they'll be taking pills which may or may not be testosterone. And they'll be looking to see if, when they measure at the end of 6 months, the guys who got the testosterone had better muscles and heart activity.
And I assume to what extent their prostate cancer had either advanced or declined or stayed constant.
That will be measured, yes, through the PSA at least. Yep.
Right.
So this trial, I must say, I'm just telling you for interest's sake at the moment. It's only starting in Brisbane, Australia, and it may go to other centres in Australia. And I'll talk to the two guys who are running it about. We have a big prostate cancer conference here in Sydney shortly. Maybe they could talk to people from overseas and get them involved. But just for interest's sake, it'll be useful if there's some results out of it.
That'd be wonderful if it would actually prove to be a feasible treatment. I would really look forward to something like that. I'm sure everybody here would.
Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth, Jake. I was just going to say there's a number of people on this call who would be very grateful if they could take small doses of testosterone, knowing that it wasn't going to impact on their prostate cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right.
If I could show off, I could take my shirt off again and show off my muscle.
I got more muscles than I used to.
I keep them hidden now.
So I had a question along these lines. I was thinking to myself earlier today. I was working out at the gym, and I know that I can't build muscle. I mean, I go to the gym 3 days a week, and I can do things. I can exercise and sweat and lose a little bit of weight. And my question is, does exercise help the muscles even with no testosterone? I mean, am I gaining anything besides my attitude and my general feeling of well-being? Am I physically doing anything that's making a difference?
Yeah, the answer is definitely you are, because the exercise helps maintain it helps avoid further wasting of the muscle. So it helps you maintain what you have. And I mean, I'll tell you, in my own case, I was lifting more weight when I was on the Lupron than I can lift now. Now, probably that was A, because I was younger, and B, because I was lifting on a more regular basis. But the answer, I think, to the question is yes, it definitely helps. I mean, exercising the muscle I mean, the testosterone helps build muscle, but it's not only the testosterone, it's the use of the muscle that maintains the muscle as well. And if you don't have testosterone, your muscles are going to waste, but they're going to waste way less if you're using them on a regular basis. Now that's actually that I'll come back to you. I just want to mention that on the 5th Monday, which is 2 weeks from today, I think, we're going to have Donna Wilson talking to us from 8:45 from Eastern Time, 8:45. The second 45 minutes, she's available to talk to us for an hour. Donna Wilson is the exercise specialist. She's also an oncology nurse at Memorial Sloan Kettering. She's really terrific, and she runs a class now for men with cancer. She's run a cancer class for years. She's the dragon boat lady that's gotten Rich Foodie all involved in dragon boats, and Peter, that will be a terrific question to ask her. So please make a note of that one, and definitely you can ask her about why exercise works when you don't have testosterone.
Yeah, I will for sure.
What's the date again, Rick?
The 29th. The 29th. I've got to find somebody to fill the first 45 minutes. I've got to work on that this week. But the second 45 minutes is going to be with Donna. And I'll send out some links, but you can Google her. Her last name is Wilson, Donna Wilson, and she's at Memorial Sloan Kettering. And she's got some great videos, and she's really a superstar. We're very lucky to have her talking to us.
Could I add in extra benefits from exercise?
Sure.
I've had an endocrinologist sort of say that exercise is very important for sort of balance, and balance is extremely important in preventing falls. And the number of men who break hips over 70, I think it's something like 1/3 of people who break their hip are dead a year later. So the sort of balance, stability is another great benefit from exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. Thanks, Paul. We'll move on now and go through the questions. I just wanted to mention that I did post the link on, for those of you who are on the computer, I posted the link to the video for how this liquid biopsy works. It's like a 2-minute video. It's really good. It helps you understand how they can take your blood and find and sample your tumor from your blood work. It's a really nice little video. So it's right there. Okay, and I just wanted to check, Paul Hobson, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about specifically tonight?
Sorry, I'm muted and rapidly getting back to the right screen to unmute. No, nothing tonight, thanks.
Nothing, thanks. And Paul Frieda, I didn't ask you before, forgive me. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start with Rich Catapano, who has sort of an interesting and not very comfortable question. And Rich, why don't you maybe outline the email that you sent to me, and also maybe talk about what we discovered on the internet.
Okay. I'll start with my dilemma. Right now I'm on Degarelix, and I've been on it since 2010. My problem is, with all the injections over the course of the years, I have all the scar tissue, and every time I get injections now, it's worse and worse. And you know, when you get Degarelix, you get the red swelling and the lumps, and I also have lumps that never go away. So I was trying to find a way around it. Now, in '09, before my radiation treatments, I was given Lupron, one shot, a 1 month shot. And I noticed in a couple of days that I had a hard time breathing. I was gasping for my air. And I went to the ER, and they ran all these tests on me and found nothing I knew about. Anyway, to make a long story short, they didn't give me any Lupron for the radiation after that. And then I went to my oncologist, and he started me on Degarelix. But right now what I'm looking for is a way to get out of using the Degarelix, because I also get malaria-like results after Degarelix. I have sweats, I'm freezing, headaches, fever, shake, and that lasts for a couple of hours. That's my quest, is maybe I can try the Lupron again, and maybe there's a way around the reaction from the Lupron.
Mm-hmm.
Do they know for a fact it was the Lupron that caused it?
Well, it was an assumption because that was the only thing I have gotten.
All right. Sounds like it was an allergic reaction almost.
Yeah, to the Lupron. So
has anybody else had lung issues, whatnot, after having Lupron, getting Lupron?
No. I have COPD, and I get a Lupron shot every 4 months, and I never have any problems at all. And I get it in my shoulder. Some people get it in their butt, but I get mine in my shoulder, and it's not really an issue for me.
Mm-hmm. So
every man is different, unfortunately.
We looked on. I looked around, and there is a reported incidence of breathing difficulties from Lupron. It's pretty low. I think it's around 3%, 3 or 4%. But it is reported. I was actually hoping Steve Bornstein might be on the call, because I mean, he's administered a lot of Lupron to women over the years, and I thought he may have some insight how often he's seen it in women. But I mean, it is reported. Yes.
It is in the, if you look at the brochure that comes with Lupron, because I got a Lupron shot 2 months ago, so I'm on it now.
Yep.
And I read it, and it does state lung issues, pneumonia, things like that. And 4 days after getting the shot, I ended up with pretty bad cold. Who knows if it was by chance or connected to it?
Yeah, I've never had any issues around my breathing. I mean, I was on it for 2.5 years almost, and there are some guys that have been on it for a long time on here, and I'm not hearing that anyone else has had anything related. But like you say, everybody's different. I mean, I had issues with my liver, and my doc, who's very well educated, said, "No, you don't get that." And then I looked, and sure enough, there were liver problems. So like everybody's a little bit different. The one thing that occurs to me, Rich, is that, and I don't really understand why, because I don't know enough about the different formulations of the agonists and the antagonists. But there is now more than one agonist available, which is like the Firmagon. Firmagon and Degarelix are the same, guys. I'm not sure. I hope that didn't confuse you. But Degarelix and Firmagon are the same drug. Degarelix is the generic name, and Firmagon is the commercial name. So there are options now. I think there are 2 other drugs. I don't know what they're called, but there are 2 other drugs out there that are agonist drugs. And then, of course, there's a whole host of different antagonists: Zoladex, Eligard, Trelstar. Those are the ones that immediately come to mind, but there's more than that. So, you know, one of the things I'm thinking is maybe to try a different formulation and see if you do better on, different formulations. And you could Google, Rich, you could, you know, I Googled Lupron and breathing issues, but try Googling some of the other ones like Trelstar or Zoladex or Eligard and see if anything's reported there.
You know what I was thinking, Rick? I was thinking that it sounded to me like an anaphylactic shock kind of reaction that he had. I'm thinking maybe they could, you know, a day or two before they could give him like an antihistamine maybe, or a, you know, something that would give the allergy people. I can't think of the name of it. Whatever shot they give for allergies.
I take an appointment to see an allergist to talk to him about it. So when I go to my doctor, I have some background.
Right.
And that's coming up. So, but I just wanted to feel out if anyone else is, even like with the Degarella shot, that I get malaria-like symptoms. When I went to the allergist about that, he started me on prednisone.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to you that some people are given steroids, especially before chemo, almost always, exactly for that reason. And yes, I do know people that have had from Lupron, not from Firmagon, but I know people from Lupron who feel fluey and pretty rotten for, you know, around the couple of days that they get their Lupron shot. I don't know, anybody on this call have that reaction to Lupron?
I had that reaction to Zometa. I feel kind of lousy for a day or two after Zometa, but not the Lupron.
Not the Lupron. Yeah, I mean, the Lupron didn't bother me, but I do know people that have had that fluey response to do get that fluey response to Lupron, usually about a day after.
Jim Marshall here.
Yes, Jim.
Usually try to stick to things that are medically approved, but in my own self-medication, in the past year that I've been on Firmagon, I've been giving myself an antihistamine. After you have the shot, within hours you start getting a red histamine patch on the surface of your abdomen, and then some of the other symptoms. So in my self-medication was to go to the pharmacy and get Phenergan and give myself an antihistamine. So that's something you might want to talk to your doctor about if you're going to continue with Firmagon.
I think his other problem is that he's having scar tissue build up in his abdomen area.
Yeah.
I guess finding out a place to inject you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know. I'm getting myself up against the wall, and I am on Zytiga, and I'm taking prednisone with that.
Mm-hmm. So you are getting some prednisone. I think it's a good plan to talk to the allergist. I forget, Rich. You're at Greenwich Hospital, right? Is where you're going?
Correct. Yes.
Have you ever had any any treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering?
No.
The reason I ask is because they seem to be the place that has all these specialties that focus on, like, allergies and cancer. You know, if there's an oncoallergist, if there's such a creature as an oncoallergist, that then
that 3 times, Rick.
then that's where they would be. I mean, you know, they've got these people that they've got a specialty dental person there, and they have some really interesting specialties. So it might be just worth Googling and checking later on to see if they have if there's an oncoallergist there. And a lot of times those people will work with your local person because it's so heavily specialized.
Oh, that's great. That's good information.
So I don't know if they have such a person, but but that they would be in your area, they would be the resource I would go to. And I would definitely discuss with your medical oncologist about using some of these different hormone therapy drugs, these different LHRH drugs that are out there, because people do react to them differently, and some people, you know, find terrible difficulty with one and swear by another. I don't know why, but they do.
I know the same thing when he put me on the Zytiga. He was amazed. I have no response to that. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
I have no bad reactions to that after I've been to all these other drugs with all the bad reactions. So it's strange.
Yeah, I mean, which is great because you know, the common thing there, of course, is fatigue. People really complain about fatigue. All right, well, let's move, unless anybody else has anything they want to say to Rich, let's move along.
Thank you.
So Jim Cameron, you're up. Are you with us, Jim?
How's that? Any better?
That's way better. Oh, look, and by the way,
that one little button on the phone, it makes all the difference in the world.
It does. Just hold on one second. I just noticed that Jim Marshall was kind enough to post all the different LHRH drugs. The only warning I want to give you is some of those may be the Australian names and not the US names. I don't know. But I have a list as well. Unfortunately, I can't check it right now. But Rich, if you look on, oh no, you're on the phone, aren't you? You're on the phone, so you can't see it. All right, I'll try and send you a list afterwards of those drugs.
Thank you.
Well, hey, Rick, I always get a chat log after this. If anything that anybody types into the chat box shows up in a chat log, it comes through as a text file to me. So I'm guessing that everybody gets that, whether they're on the phone or not.
Well, if they're on a landline, it's not going to come through, is it?
Oh, right.
So and I think that's when usually the guys that show up on the phone are the landline guys. But I will, I'll try and I'll get the information to you, Rich. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Okay, I've been on Belstar for over 2 years, and I keep talking to people that the hormone therapy a lot of times lasts 2, 3, 4 years. Of course, some last a lot longer. With my drug situation, I'm on the government plan, the Plan D or whatever they call it. And every October, I got to choose a new plan. I got to choose a plan. Do most of the plans cover the second stage of hormone therapies? I understand those drugs are very expensive.
They are. So I'll come in later, talk to some of the guys who are on these drugs. Why don't you talk about your experience, and then I'll sort of I'll do the cleanup on this one. Well, who's on Zytiga right now or enzalutamide?
I'm on enzalutamide.
And
Frank Kelly.
Frank, talk to Jim about the cost issues around that.
Well, I've heard different varying amounts from $6,000 a month to $10,000 a month. I've got a foundation. Lisa, what's the foundation that does the enzalutamide? Patient Access Network. That picked it up, and basically they paid my deductible the first time around, and I haven't had to pay for enzalutamide since, at least for this year. So that was quite sweet, because I wouldn't be taking enzalutamide at $120,000 a year. Now that's kind of like Foundation One. It'll pay for these tests for your gene sequencing. you just got to find the right foundation to pay for them. I assume you're on Medicare. You're over 65.
Yeah. I'm 70.
I'm 62, so I don't know what happens once you're on the government dole. But this is what I've found, is that my wife does a very good job of finding these different nonprofits that will pick up the payments for these things. You have to show under a certain amount of income.
How low does the income have to be? Do you have any idea what the range is?
I think it has to be under 70-something grand a year, which is not a bad threshold. And if you're making lots more than that, then I guess it's, you know, it's going to be expensive for you. All these drugs are very, very expensive. Even any new generation. There was some new cancer drug the other day that they were talking about for lung cancer, and that was 12 grand a month.
Mm-hmm.
So the trick is to call around, and Richard should have some of this stuff, is find some of these nonprofits that will help, and they're usually connected with the drug companies, etc.
Mm-hmm.
As far as affordability, I've just gotten to the point where my income is so low that basically they kick in for anything I'm doing.
You go somewhere else. You go somewhere else.
And anyway, that's my experience with it.
So, Rich, thanks, Frank. Rich Catapano, you mentioned you're taking Zytiga. You're on Medicare. How are you handling that?
I'm Medicare pays for some of it, and I have you know, the gap insurance, the extra insurance with what was that? That I pay for extra. Mm-hmm. They cover a small portion, and then I also, through the doctor, they got in contact with one of those people that he was just talking about, and they pay the rest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you have to have your income, like you said. I think it's 65,000 or so.
Mm-hmm. Mike Tamales, you're not on Medicare yet, but how is your Zytiga being handled? Do you know?
I thought it was through my insurance. I mean, I'm just paying for the prednisone,
mm-hmm.
and so far they haven't given me a bill or said anything about how much it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what to say now, because I thought my insurance was covering it.
Well, they probably are. If you haven't heard from them, then I think there's a good chance that they will be. Is there anyone else taking either Xtandi or Zytiga, enzalutamide, or abiraterone on the call?
I'm addressing the last man who said he doesn't know whether they're paying for it or not. You should have an insurance statement comes out every month of benefits paid, etc., and that should tell you what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, Frank's absolutely right that you should be getting something from your insurance telling you, but I don't know. I mean, don't know.
Sometimes it takes 3 months for it to all clear through, but at some point you've got an insurance statement.
I've asked the same question before, Rick, if you remember. I'm not taking Zytiga or Xtandi yet, but I will be eventually. And I have Medicare A and B, and I have a secondary plan like Rich has. And I've been concerned about that too. But right. I just wanted to throw in. I saw something online the other day, and I can't verify it, but CVS Caremark, which is my provider, apparently they're not going to cover Xtandi anymore.
Right. So let me I'll wade in on a couple of issues here. It's sort of timely because I had a conversation with the woman who's organizing the PCRI conference, and this morning, and one of the things that she asked me was, could I share with her so that they can publicize the list of whatever I know about financial supplements and financial aid, and the PAN network, which is the patient assistance network, which Frank and Lisa are using, is the is one that I am very familiar with. There are a bunch of others. I happen to be looking about 4 weeks ago for Trevor, God rest his soul, to see how we could get the pembrolizumab covered, and unfortunately almost everybody that I went to at that time, including PAN, are not taking new prostate cancer people. They're tapped out with prostate cancer. Now, by the way, the Prostate Assistance Network is a sort of, I would say a joint venture, maybe that's what you call it. It's a joint effort with Zero. So Zero says that they provide patient assistance, but the way they provide that patient assistance is through the PAN network. And what I had heard is that most of that money that they are doling out is coming from the pharmaceuticals. So so it's the pharmaceutical money that runs through Zero and the PAN network. I'm just looking. I know I bookmarked a whole bunch of these. I'm just trying to see if I can find them. If I can find them, then I'll rattle them off to you. But one of the things that I will be doing is I'll be putting a list together. But in terms of the cost, Jim, enzalutamide and abiraterone both run around 9 to 10.5 grand a month. And usually you are responsible for up to about 20% of that if you're on Medicare. Even with the drug programs, it seems like it can run a little over 2,000. Now CVS has said that they're not going to provide enzalutamide any longer. Apparently that comes from CVS, according to Alex at PCRI, and they're lobbying CVS to continue to provide it, but it's just an issue of who you're going to get it from. I mean, most of the time it comes from a specialty pharmacy, at least here in California. It comes always from a specialty pharmacy, and CVS is big enough that they have their own specialty pharmacy. So the question...
I have a question. Just how long, when you're on a drug like that, how long are you on for?
Okay, so let's come back to that, Kurt, because let's just stay on the financial side. So the question is, how do you get that 2 grand covered? Well, one thing for sure is that make sure that you get that you monitor all the organizations that are offering this coverage, because they never know when they're going to have money. They don't know when the money's coming in. It's not like the money gets renewed at the beginning of each year. It sort of comes in at least this is what they told me. It comes in fits and starts. So you've always got to be calling them to see, do they have more money? Do they have money at all? There is a new website I just heard about today, offered by Cancer Care, called Cancer Care Helping Hand, and you can Google that, Cancer Care Helping Hand. Here I'll put for those of you who are on the computer, on the website, I'm just going to copy and paste the address right now.
I'd suggest also, before you sign
right
up for Medicare Part D, to call the companies that are in your area that offer Part D and make sure that they're actually carrying those drugs before you sign up for any plan.
Well, that was the crux of my question, because every October you have the opportunity to switch plans.
Well, research it thoroughly. They all have websites with their whole list of drugs, and you can actually talk to them too. Call them up and find out how much and what they're covering before you sign up for one.
Now are these drugs okay? You got Part A and Part B, the hospital and the doctor.
This is
That's
Part
Medicare.
This is Part D, like in David.
Right, I'm familiar. That's Part D is the drug portion.
Correct.
So these drugs are covered under.
No, it depends.
Part D, right?
No, not necessarily. It depends on the insurance company that's providing Part D in your area. It's different in every area. Certain insurance companies will provide Part D in your area, and you find out from them whether they're covering Xtandi and or Zytiga.
Okay, so Part A and Part B have nothing to do with this.
Correct.
Okay. So it's all on Part D, the pharmaceutical branch of Medicare.
Correct, unless you have your own supplemental insurance already.
I worked for AT&T for 32 years. 3 years ago, they decided they weren't going to provide us insurance anymore.
Okay, so then you've got to get Part D then. Or
yeah,
get a United Healthcare supplemental Part D through United Healthcare through AARP or something like that.
Yeah, I have had Part D for the last 3 years. I've had a switch every year because there's some expensive drugs I take for my rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay, well just check it out with the insurance company before you sign up.
But there are plans that do cover some of these drugs.
Yes, but not in every area.
And they cover them, but they don't cover them completely, Jim.
Usually it's 80%.
Yeah.
20% is on you.
But don't make assumptions. Call them up and look online.
Oh, I know that.
Investigate thoroughly.
Some of my rheumatoid arthritis medications, they're not as expensive as the cancer ones, but they're expensive.
So
I got some healthy copays on a couple of them.
So here are some of the names of those that offer assistance. There's a website called Needy Meds, which lists patient assistant programs. Needy Meds. There's another patient assistance program called, and I think that just leads you to providers. It's kind of like a directory. There's a program called Good Days, G-O-O-D, capital D-A-Y-S, Good Days. It's a patient assistance program. There's the Patient Advocate Foundation, which is different to the Patient Assistance Network. There's the Patient Assistance Network, which we talked about before, which is PAN. And then there's one called the Patient Advocate Foundation. Cancer Care has copay funds, but not for prostate cancer. But as I mentioned, Cancer Care now has this new website I heard about this morning called Helping Hands. I haven't even looked to see who their resources are. That's it. Those are the ones that Patient Access Network I mentioned before. So those are the ones that I'm aware of.
Rick, what about, okay, I go to Johns Hopkins for my treatment.
Mm-hmm.
The big cancer hospitals like that, do they have any resources or any help with that?
Not that I've heard of, but you never know. I think it's, some of them may have assistance programs set up with funds that were left directly for them. You have to check with each one, but I don't I don't think there's anything at UCSF. So.
Well, when the time comes, I can check with Carlucci down there.
Okay, so Kurt Johnson, why don't you, you had a couple of questions. One regarding how long do people remain on these drugs, and you wanted to talk, I think, about Lupron and radiation.
Yeah, I guess so. One of the questions with the discussion you just had for the expense of these drugs, since I'm pretty new to this group, and once you've been around a while, it looks like you're getting on more expensive drugs. Is this something that you're on continuously, or you're on for a number of months and then you're off? How does it work?
Somebody wanted to take a shot at that, Peter?
I'll take
I'm not on Zytiga or enzalutamide, but I've heard on this in our group that people have been on it for 2 years, 4 years. Zytiga particularly, or I've also heard of people on enzalutamide for longer periods of time. Mm-hmm. So it depends on whether you build up a tolerance to it, how long you can take it, and whether you've moved on to something else.
Frank?
Okay, I was just curious.
Frank, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say they basically keep you on it as long as it works.
Right.
Except for the Lupron type thing. My aunt wonders why I'm still on Lupron, but they suggest you stay on Lupron basically the rest of your life. Now, Xtandi, I've been on 7 months, which is a pretty good pull because it's only supposed to work for you for 2 to 4 months. My PSA is rising, but it's rising very, very slowly, so they're keeping me on Xtandi for the time being. I don't know. I'm running out of different drugs, so I don't know what's next, but that's all I know is they keep you on as long as it works, and when you start failing it by your PSA going up, they try and move you to something else until you run out of other things.
I think that's probably the best answer, and the best answer you're going to get from anyone. I mean, the name of the game, if you have recurrent prostate cancer, is that it's not a curable disease, but it is a manageable disease, and so you go through all these different treatments, whatever they might be, and you hope that each treatment is going to help you manage the disease for as long as you possibly can. And, we started off talking about the man who's had 60 chemotherapy treatments. Well, that's because chemotherapy works for him. He tolerates it well, and he's going to stick with it for as long as it works. But there comes a point in time when that may not work any longer. There are men who have been on Zytiga for many, many years, and also Xtandi. There's a guy that doesn't come on this call anymore, but he's on some of the other calls, who lives in this area, and he's been on Xtandi, I think, for something like 10 years. He started it as on trial. Ron Baniscus, who is sometimes on this call, but very active with Reluctant Brotherhood and Answer Cancer, has been on Zytiga for 5 or 6 years, and he doesn't have bone mets, he has visceral mets, and it's handled his visceral mets really well. He has mets that in his liver, and in fact he's going to be at PCRI. Courtesy of Janssen. They're flying him out there, and they're doing a little session, and they're using him as a poster boy. So, but then there are other people that don't get 60 days out of them, and now we have a blood test that you can do that will at least give you an idea whether you get you're good for that disease, that drug or not. And anybody thinking about going on Xtandi or Zytiga, I would recommend you get the blood test before you start the drug or you order the drug, because otherwise you're going to be out of pocket a couple of $1,000s or more and find that you don't respond to the drug.
Okay, so my original question was, because I am new to the group and I'm new to Lupron, I was on Casodex for a month and then I got the shot of Lupron about 2 months ago, and I just had my simulation today for radiation, which is going to be starting next week. And what I've noticed just in the last 2 days is my nipples getting hard and a little bit of pain. And I brought it up with the oncologist, and he mentioned, oh yeah, we can zap you with a couple of doses of radiation, and that should solve that. I'm just curious how common the gynecomastia, or whatever it's called, with the breast, how prevalent is it?
Okay, so gynecomastia is usually something that occurs as a result of taking an anti-androgen like Casodex. You were put on Casodex as a buffer,
Right.
so you're not really taking it continuously, so that can resolve. But there are guys on this call who have taken Casodex for a while and who have had issues. And if you're going to be taking Casodex permanently, then it's not a bad idea to get a quick zap of your chest to prevent any issues.
Does it happen with Lupron?
No, it does not. It's not a side effect of Lupron. It's a side effect of the anti-androgens.
Oh, okay. So the fact that I had it for a month and I'm off now. I mean, I've only took it for a month, and I know it was in there to deal with the spike of testosterone when I started Lupron.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something that'll just slowly fade away then.
I would think, but I would check with, certainly discuss that with your doc if you're not going to stay on Casodex. Anybody want to talk about this issue?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I was too late. I asked about getting zapped, and I'm on my second round of Casodex, and I've been on it for quite a few months. I've got the enlarged. I don't have sensitive nipples, but I do have enlarged breasts, and I'm going to have to live with it the rest of my life unless I do breast reduction or liposuction or something. I guess my question to you, Kurt, is how advanced is your disease? Is it something that's likely to reoccur? Is it at least in 8 or 9? Is it something that where Casodex might come around again in your future? In which case, this is a very simple thing to get your breast zapped, and you don't have to think about it again. You look like you're relatively young, and
I'm 56, yeah. And my PSA was 13 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. I had a radical prostatectomy last April, and when they took it out, there was a positive margin on it, and my PSA 3 months afterwards was 0.14. It dropped down to 0.1, and it got back up to 0.16 this last spring. And so the doc was talking about recent studies, and I think it was mentioned in this call as well, about studies where you combine Lupron with radiation therapy.
Right, that's normal. What is your Gleason score?
7, 3 plus 4.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if it's a simple thing, I would go with the breast radiation. That way you don't have to think about it again. It's not like we produce milk or anything. I don't think there's any side effect to it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking if it is the case that it's the Casodex, and if I was only on it for a month, and hopefully it would resolve. If I have to go on it again, then I would look at it. So.
I mentioned, I'm on Casodex also. This is Jake. And I mentioned it at Rick's suggestion 7 or 8 months ago. I mentioned it to my oncologist, and she said that, there can be side effects from the radiation, and she recommended against it. And I do have a little bit of breast enlargement, but it's not bad. If it gets really bad, I'll just wear my wife's training bra.
So your wife's still using the training bra?
Got a training bra. How young is your wife?
No, I don't know. I can't remember the exact reason, but she recommended against the radiation.
Okay, so the reason we talked about it at the time, and I actually followed up, Jake. The reason is because they're concerned that it can impact your heart. But I spoke to a cardiologist about that, who I know, and I said, is there anything to that? He said, absolutely not. He said, unless you've got heart issues going in, or you've had heart issues, he said there's pretty much no risk from getting one or two zaps on your chest. But if you do have heart issues, then you need to be more concerned about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're right. That was what she said.
Yeah.
Thank you for refreshing my memory.
Yeah.
Jim Marshall here.
Yes, Jim.
I guess I've had 5 years of anti-androgens, and my breasts swelled up during the first 4 years. That didn't worry me at all. What worried me is that the nipples became hard and painful. So I went on, I'd already looked into the radiation, but my radiation oncologist wasn't keen on that. So I looked through the options and settled on a drug, tamoxifen. Half the dose that the tablets come in, they come in 20 milligrams, I take 10 milligrams. It was supposed to be prophylactic, but a member of our group, when I told him that they were only prophylactic, you had to take them in advance. He said, well, I didn't. I took them afterwards and they resolved my gynecomastia. So I started taking tamoxifen about a year ago, and it cured my troubles. I'm not sure about the size of my breasts. I'd have to take them out and show you. But you can see that even the 68-degree winter is a bit cold for me here. I had to go and get a coat on. But anyway, tamoxifen, if you look it up, very little side effects in small doses, and it worked for me.
Did it reduce your swelling?
That's the nipples are normal. The breasts are fairly normal, actually. I've never measured it, never worried about it, by the time we're up past 50, we don't worry too much about our shape, do we? So I never have.
Jim, yep. If we show up at PCRI, can we cop a feel?
Usually when I go to these places, people line up to try and get a ride on my scooter. Right? I'm lining up for my press.
Hey, well, you and Peter, we'll put you and Peter. Maybe we can charge for this.
Maybe we could have a wet T-shirt contest.
A wet PCRI. Call your friend Alex and see if we can have a wet PCRI T-shirt contest. A new event. It could be the star event of the conference. So to go back to your original question, Kurt, because I want to move on to Mike Tamales before it's too late. It's pretty normal that Lupron is administered with radiation because the studies suggest it's a lot more effective that way for many reasons. And normally it's, as a rough rule of thumb, it's usually 4 to 6 months if you're a 3+4, 6 to 8 months if you're a 4+3, and then 4+4 and higher anywhere from 12 months to 3 years. Some people just do 12 months. The studies seem to indicate that there's not much difference between 18 months and 36 months. So
My oncologist was saying 2 years for me.
Well, that's a little unusual with 3+4, although as I recall, you had extracapular extension
Yep.
and a positive margin, so I mean, that might be why.
I think that's why he's doing it.
Yeah, but anyway, that's kind of a, I mean, it is normally shorter if your disease is 3+4, even on salvage radiation or adjuvant radiation, because I know guys that have done it. But
and
2 years.
I told him I'd see how I can withstand it, and if you know I got a 4-month shot, and then October I'm going to go for the next shot, and we'll see how I do.
So there's a
Rick,
yes.
Rick, I have a quick. Frank Kelly brought up an interesting one that we can answer quickly. He said, "I'm on Xtandi. Why am I still out getting Lupron shots?" I asked that question as well to someone, and I think it's just the answer I got was it just keeps your testosterone knocked down.
That's right.
So if you've moved on to Xtandi or Zytiga, you'll still get Lupron just to keep the testosterone at 0.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Did I ever send you the hormone therapy pamphlet from UCSF?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm just going to post that for you right now in the chat window, because it's a really helpful, useful summary of what you can expect from hormone therapy and what your doctors never tell you about hormone therapy. And it came about for that very reason, because when I was getting treated, I said, we don't have a good pamphlet. I just posted it up there, and then we created this pamphlet. This was about 6 years ago now, 5 years ago, and it gets updated. I was pretty much responsible for the first draft. Some of that's changed, but I strongly recommend for you to read that. A lot of people have said that they feel it's probably one of the best primers on hormone therapy that's out there. It should be quite easy to read, and you can see the link in your window now. So you know.
Right there, I brought it up.
That's it. You got it. So take a look. Now, I don't know if they've updated it to include. I no longer work on that committee, but so I don't know if it should have been updated to include the second-line anti-androgens and the newer treatments. It may not have been. I can't tell you, but the base information is good.
Yeah, it was revised. It says here in 2012. So
yeah, it needs revising again, but you know they know that, so I stay out of that one. So
okay, thank you.
I want to go on to Mike Tamales so we can get a progress report. Mike, what's the progress?
Not much progress. I went to see the radiologist about the bone scan, and he just said that well, it's spread, and he thinks that I'm a good candidate for Zofigo. And I do a blood test tomorrow. I'm still on Zytiga. Maybe after tomorrow I won't be, or I get my results back in a week, but I do the blood test tomorrow and see if what I'm doing is working. If not, then that's the next step.
I mean, there's no reason you can't do the Zofigo and the Zytiga at the same time.
Holy moly.
In fact, most guys that I know would be doing that. They would be doing that at the same time.
Well, gee, I guess I see the oncologist in 2 weeks, and I guess depending on what the reading is, maybe I will be on both of them.
So you were going to set up an appointment with the urologist to talk to him about gene sequencing. Has that gone anywhere?
I think we talked to the radiologist about that, and he deferred it back to the oncologist.
Yeah, but Mike, we've had this discussion the last 2 sessions. Your oncologist won't give you chemo because he says that's for the end of life. Yet we know it's not for the end of life. We know that they give you early chemo now. And you need to get gene sequenced. He's not going to give you gene sequencing because he doesn't understand how to treat this disease. So you've got to get a GU Med-Onc. You remember we talked about getting a GU Med-Onc maybe from Hawaii or Oahu, wherever the University of Hawaii hospital is, and we talked last time about you getting. Go on.
Sequencing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Sorry?
The tumor sequencing.
Yeah, the tumor sequencing.
And that's got to go through the urologist. I was thinking that it could go through the radiologist.
The reason it can't go through the radiologist is because you need a biopsy to do it.
Oh.
And the urologist has to. We decided that since you still have a prostate, we talked about this last time. You still have a prostate, so you can get a sample from your prostate and you can send that to Foundation One. And it doesn't matter what your medical oncologist on the island of Maui says, you can go ahead and do it. And then you're going to have to start working with a different medical oncologist on how to treat the results, what to do with the results. So step 1 was that last week on the 8th, that was last Tuesday, I think. No, or was it, yeah, no, the 9th. Last Tuesday, you told us you would call the urologist and you'd set up an appointment.
Yeah, I kind of got sidetracked to the radiologist. Okay, so I'm back to calling the urologist to set up gene sequencing.
Right.
Okay.
And with Foundation
and
One,
new biopsy.
New biopsy. Yes.
Yeah.
Must be a new biopsy, but you can still use your prostate because the research that was published earlier this year says that the prostate, the gene composition in the prostate is going to be pretty much 90%. It's going to be the same as what's in the bone. So it doesn't matter where you take the biopsy from, it's all going to be very similar within the same man.
Okay.
And it's much easier to get a prostate biopsy than it is to get a bone biopsy.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Okay.
And then you can call your insurers, or better than calling your insurers, you call Foundation One, because they will work with you to get it paid for. They'll work with your insurance.
Well, okay. I
All right.
I have to start with the insurance guys first, because
No, you don't have to. Well, let me tell you why you don't, okay? Because Foundation One will handle that, will handle the biopsy. I mean, you'll have to talk to the insurers about paying for the prostate biopsy, yes. But in terms of the gene sequencing, Foundation One will handle that.
Okay. Just the new biopsy would be the medical carrier that I got a call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think you will need to talk to them about that, or the urologist, whichever one. But if he needs to do another biopsy, then, and you want to be sure it's covered, that's got to be coordinated with your existing. But in terms of the gene sequencing and all of that, I wouldn't even mention it. You can just say my doctor wants to do another biopsy. That's it, period. And then let Foundation One, because they know how to work with these insurance companies now. Okay?
Okay, I'll see how far I can go.
Now, let me see if I've got I'm looking for a telephone number here. I know I've got one for Foundation One. I'm just pulling up their website. Contact overview. Okay, so their telephone number, you got a pencil?
Yes, sir.
888.
What was that?
888.
Okay.
988.
Okay.
3639.
Okay, gotcha.
888-988-3639. That's a toll-free number.
Okay.
And, you know, and they have a big staff there, and to tell them that you need to order, you know, you're on Zytiga, and you need to order a Foundation One test, and you know, you're going to ask your urologist to do a biopsy, you're switching your oncologist, etc., etc. And what's the story and getting it paid? And they'll ask you who your insurance company is, and then they'll tell you how to go about it.
Okay.
But they actually say on their website they will not let money stand in the way of a man who needs to get sequenced.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And call me or Peter if you need to follow through with that. But we got to get you sequenced, Mike, because there could be something in there that could help you a lot. And the other thing is we've got to get you to a genitourinary medical oncologist, because the guy on the island is not doing everything that he could be doing for you right now.
The radiation guy that we talked to the other day, on Friday, did not think there was a GU medic in the islands. He didn't. We'll explore it a little bit more, but he didn't even know of one on Oahu. But we'll look at it and see if there is one.
Okay.
The one good news is that Mike checked with his insurance company, and they will pay for his flight over and back once a month to get the Xofigo shot.
Oh, good.
So he's good. He's set for that.
Okay. That's great, Peter, and thanks for going along with Mike. But let's try and get this gene sequencing done. And push comes to shove, you know, again, like we talked about earlier in the call, Mike, we can always send a liquid biopsy. But if we can get a tumor biopsy, and it shouldn't be too difficult to get a prostate tumor biopsy, then let's go with it, because it's going to be it's going to give you better results.
Okay. I can just get on the phone to the urologist's office.
Mm-hmm. And if they're confused at the urologist's office, because this is probably going to be something new to them, then, you know, they can call me, they can call Peter, we can help them. They can call Foundation One themselves. There's a whole section on Foundation One for physicians on the website.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to trying to get the ball rolling, and I wasn't feeling real good last week either.
Okay. So what did what exactly did the guy did the radiologist tell you about the bone scans?
Said that were they rated from what, L4 down to my coccyx, and did my hips and recommended that I think about going to Zofigo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of all I picked up out of it.
Mm-hmm. What is the difference? When was the last time they did scans, and what was the difference between this scan and the last scan?
Let's see. Oh, that the cancer was spreading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, I think he's right. It probably is a really good option for you, the Zofigo, but it's not instead of anything else that you're doing. You know, the Zytiga should continue unless you're. When was the last time you did a PSA? Was that on the 26th of July?
It'll be I'll draw blood tomorrow.
Okay. So that's the next one. So, you know, it's
then
yeah,
then I'll know what the
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I got you. All right. Well, let's try and work to get your gene sequenced and see what that tells us. It may tell us some, you know, may really have some good, interesting results that can point us to a drug.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That will be my assignment.
Okay.
Okay.
Peter, are you on board with that?
Yes. Yeah, I had to leave early last week, so I didn't think I heard this conversation at the end of the week.
No, you.
Last Tuesday, because I was coming down at 3.
Yeah. You left before we had that conversation. Yep.
Right. Yeah, I'm on board now. I'll work on this one.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Guess what? It's 7 o'clock or whatever time it is in Australia. Don't ask me. That's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody. And, we burned up the 2 hours pretty easily again.
So, Rick?
It's noon tomorrow here.
Oh, noon tomorrow. Oh, one thing I did want to say, guys, whoever's on the phone, I am definitely going to PCRI, so just give me a shout if you're going to be there, and so we can arrange we'll set up a place for somewhere to eat, and as Peter said, it'll be somewhere that's probably a little quieter than we went last time.
A reminder for men who are on the using the computer to log in, that if you go to the file menu, you can find Save Chat Log. If you were looking for some of the references from today that went up in chat, file menu, Save Chat Log.
And I see Mr. Foodie joined us late. I just want to tell you, Rich, that we gave Donna Wilson a plug earlier on in the call. Okay?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have to send you an email, and yeah, I came in and I've been listening, but I'll send you a letter introducing the two of you. She wants to do it. She's interested, and she'll be pleased to work with you directly on it.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, guys, so like I say, just please let me know if you're going to be at PCRI, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Rick. Good night, gentlemen.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rick. Good night.